Hey there, patrons. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for a year-end edition, year-end bonus edition of the Knicks Film School Patreon podcast. He was gone for a week. He had to take care of some business. I think that business was basically him being sick.
Yes.
I think he's... Have you taken care of said business, Andrew Claudio?
I've taken care of said family business, Mr. Macri. And thank you to Chris for filling in last week. Thank you to Derek Rose for breaking news during Patreon, which is, I would have loved to be there to react to it, but I obviously could not. And thank you as always for manning the fort, as you always seem to do. And I'm excited to be able to wrap up the year.
Yeah. So we were... Full disclosure, we were going back and forth on like what we wanted this episode to be, because we were like, all right, we've been doing, going through the cycle of going through the league with all NBA and awards and power rankings, but we want to do one of those per month. And we've done all of those already for the month of December. And we had this episode, and this episode came at the end of the year. So we knew we wanted to do something to like commemorate the end of 2021 in the beginning of 2022. So I don't think we quite knew exactly what we wanted it to be. We settled on something that we're going to do a little bit of a look back, a little bit of a look forward, but I'm excited to reflect back, but I find myself even more excited to look forward, because I feel like the NBA is just so freaking unpredictable that, I mean, if we would have done this pod a year ago, right? So that would have meant the 2020-21 season had just gotten started, because they got started. It was just a couple days before Christmas, right?
22nd. Yeah. It was tip off. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And if we would have tried to do like a predictions pod, would we have predicted that like the Bucks were going to win the championship? Would we have predicted? Well, maybe we would have predicted that James Harden was going to get traded to.
Well, yeah. Traded. I don't know where to. I think Philly actually would have been my safer bet, because I thought Brooklyn had gotten their two guys already.
Yeah.
We thought the Philly thing hadn't. I think we all thought a year ago the Philly thing was never going to work. The Embiid and Simmons, that there was a cap on what that could accomplish. Plus the Morey connection made a ton of sense.
Would we have predicted that the Cleveland Cavaliers would draft a potentially generational big man and run roughshod over the league, and at least in comparison to like where expectations were to start this year?
Man, every time I refresh the NBA advanced stats page, and they're just like, their net rating keeps getting higher.
Lost today. We're recording this at 10 o'clock on Thursday night. Yeah.
Missing Garland, but also just lost Ricky Rubio. Also, the Wizards, the team that they played, didn't have a Spencer Dinwiddie. So you almost wonder if everybody was kind of playing man down and out of sorts tonight. Yeah, no, for sure. And like even like other stuff, like the what's gone on with the Bulls, the summer they had. Like actually, if we were recorded this year ago, the Bulls hadn't even traded for Vooch. Nope.
Yeah, the Bulls were just like,
we might have thought that they would have traded Levine before the end of the year at that point.
Yeah, no, they were the team we were circling about, like, oh yeah, who's the next superstar to go? Same with Beal for that matter, I guess.
If the question that you're hinting at is like, what was the most surprising thing about? Yeah, that is what I'm hinting at. It's the fact that the Phoenix Suns are now contenders. I thought Chris Paul would have helped. I thought they were a playoff team. I think a lot of people had them 5 or 6, and they made the finals. Well, granted, with some injury luck, and this season they're right there with the Warriors for best record in the league in like a tier of their own. Well, the Jazz, if you look at net rating, are the actual two teams up there. Regardless, the Suns are now contenders. They're a team we have to take seriously, something we didn't have for a while before that.
It is the biggest surprise in the league, especially since they got started. They were 4-4 to begin last season, excuse me. Coming off 8-0 in the bubble, for what it's worth, I guess. So that's
for whatever it's worth. Yes.
For whatever
you apply to that. Yes.
I guess the only other thing I'll throw in there in terms of surprises, like, is there anybody who you look at the year they've had and you're like, the last calendar year that they've had, and you're like, wow, that's a real disappointment. I have two teams in mind. Can you guess the two teams that I have in mind?
Disappointment. Well, this year's the obvious one. And again, this is an NBA pod, not a Knicks pod, so we won't be talking about our team. Yeah. The disappointments that come with that.
No, but hold on. They don't qualify because if we were recording this pod exactly a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody would have been like, in the next calendar year, the Knicks will win. What are we? We're 2 games under 500 right now? Or are we
one game? 17, 18.
Great.
1 game off of last year's pace. Yeah.
I was about to say, but for the whole year, I'm trying to remember what they started out like. Whatever, the Knicks will be 7 or 8 games over 500 for the calendar year. You would have been like, "What? Excuse me, what?" Mm-hmm. If you don't count the playoffs, which we'll ignore.
I got you. For the year, it's a full not disappointment, but a surprise for the Knicks. The Lakers have to be your disappointment then.
Okay, so 3. I almost put the Lakers in their own category because they're so fucking funky. The 2 teams that I was going to say were the Dallas Mavericks and the Pelicans.
See, the Pelicans have so much institutionally wrong with them that I'm not as surprised. I think maybe they probably should be better than how bad they are, but we watched what incompetent ownership will lead to. I know. And what the wrong person in charge can lead to, and they just haven't seemed to get it right for a couple of years now.
But like Luka entered last season as the MVP favorite. He entered this season as the MVP favorite. They're currently sitting in 8th, 2 games under 500. And the Pelicans, like, don't forget, they were scheduled for a Christmas Day game last year. Mm-hmm. Like they were supposed to be the next big thing. And obviously it's gone kind of sideways. So, yeah. Okay. So other things that we are, so let's start with this. I'm thankful over the last year that we are not in the situation that the Pelicans are in. Other things that I will remember fondly from the last year. Let's go to that. Okay. Can I throw you a quirky one?
Sure.
I love the fact that we got to see, and it's sad that it just ended because of the injury. We got to see Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio 2.0.
This is such a deep cut because you have to be like an insane basketball fan to remember 1.0.
But no, they were a real thing in Minnesota.
They were okay. The key word in Minnesota. You mean to have been a league pass savant to remember the Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love.
Do they have league pass back then?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's the Steph Curry draft with Ricky Rubio, and that I think was a lot of the things they were known for. And then LeBron goes back to Cleveland. Kevin Love goes to Cleveland with him. And that, ended the first round of the Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio thing, that whether or not people remembered that there was a Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio thing.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Very true. Speaking of Kevin Love, mm-hmm. This is tangentially related because Andrew Wiggins was part of that trade. I'm not going to say the redemption of Andrew Wiggins is something I'm going to remember about the year of our Lord 2021, mm-hmm. but the Warriors, becoming the Warriors again and like Steph kind of looking like Steph again is, I think, something that I will take with me from this year.
Yeah. There's 2 guys I think that have raised their stock in the all-time convo. Doing that top 75 with you was really fun, and forcing you to really debate the top 15, top 25 was really fun. And the more I looked at it, how clear the top 15 players are, it was also kind of cool, and how Giannis may be able to jump up, but realizing Steph is probably a top 10 player ever, and this year probably solidifies it. Well, he's got to finish some things, don't get me wrong, but the impact at least is probably solidifies it more than anything else. And then look, we're going to project into 2022 and whatever Giannis has in store for the rest of the league.
That was my last one.
Man, seeing him take a leap into the pantheon of big men and what that could potentially mean, where, like I said before the season, if he goes through a couple of the star-studded rosters that are in the league right now and wins Milwaukee a second championship and like is top 3 MVP, wins a finals MVP, you're looking at a guy that probably should be mentioned in the Hakeem category for like top 15 ever. And I did not expect that a year ago today.
Well, I would even go. I mean, you kind of nailed it. I would not go a step further, but I would like, how many times throughout over the last like 20 years or 30 years have we seen a guy who very early on, there is clearly identified promise as like, oh, if this guy has what it takes, and then follows through on that promise, gets the individual accolades, and then you watch this player who clearly has the ability to be the best player in the game, put it all together and win a championship. And it happens over the course of what had happened over the course of, for Giannis, is what, 5, 6, 7 years, right? Like, how often does that happen? How often do you get that moment where it's like, wow, it's really been 6, 7 years have been building up to this moment, and now we get to see it happen. Like, Steph wasn't like that, because Steph was like, not like, don't forget, at 4 years after Steph's career, he signed a one of the most below market contracts in like the history of the sport. Like, it was not, and then out of nowhere, it was like, oh, this guy's breaking basketball, and then he won the championship like that season.
Yeah. The Steve Kerr hiring, I don't think anybody thought the Warriors are. If I remember the True Hoops and the BS reports of the time, the conversation around the Warriors was like, there's a sneaky 2 seed potential in them this year. And this is the better part about the revisionist history of the Warriors, if they trade Klay Thompson for Kevin Love, and then you all of a sudden
shout out to Bob.
Yes, you have a 1-2 punch that'll make, so they'll take over the league forever. So I don't think people saw it, a 67 win team followed by a 73 win team, over the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, no,
Steph,
that was not it.
To your points, we used to get it all the time. Like, Michael progresses through the Pistons and the Celtics.
Did we get it all the time? I feel like we got it with Michael. I don't feel like that was
the Pistons progressed. The Lakers had to eventually overcome the Jazz and the Spurs, and then they got through the Blazers. LeBron did it a different way.
I was about to say
that's why I said it's different now, because LeBron had to get through the Celtics, and what he did was he went to Miami to get through the Celtics.
I'm literally looking at a list of the NBA, all of the NBA champions from the last 30 years, and I feel like the only real comp for what we saw from Giannis last year was Jordan, in terms of, again, this guy. Within the first year, you like, again, Jordan, he became the most marketable player in sports probably within a year. Giannis wasn't to that end, but like within 2-3 years, you're like, oh, this guy could win an MVP someday. And then he won 2 MVPs and then won it, but like, Tim Duncan, it happened much quicker. Kobe, it happened quick, and then he took a step back, and then he got back to that when he was older. Like Shaq, it was kind of more uneven. LeBron, as you just said, was more uneven. Guys like Dirk and KG, it took longer and a different route and everything. Like, yeah, it was just really cool to see in the way it happened. I think
it's not remembered as his individual championship, but Isaiah getting it in '89. After going like all the battles with the Celtics to get through them, then all the battles, the back-to-back years battling the Lakers to get through them, and then fending off the rise of Michael Jordan that took back-to-back seasons to win 2 championships, then leading to a 3rd straight year beating the Bulls, which Jordan.
But there's so much
that leap.
There's so much promise still here. When Isaiah won those championships, it was like, okay, nice now. That's it. He's done, right?
Yeah. Well, this also adds to comparing Michael Jordan to Giannis when we had I'm blanking on his name right now, from the Eurostep podcast.
Eurostep,
the Bucks pod that we had on. The guy works for Blue Wire. Guys, do not report back to Blue Wire that we're blanking on one of their higher ups names right now. But we had on a host of a Bucks pod.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
But said like there is GOAT potential for Giannis.
Oh, yes.
If this is a run he's about to go on, where you saw the progression lead up to last season, and now it's his league for the next 5 or 6 years. That's on the table for Giannis.
Should we get into predictions?
Yes, let's do it.
So we got 5 each, right?
Oh no, you said you had 5, and I was like, okay, you got 5 then, John. I'll react to your 5. Yeah. Sorry about that. I thought that it was because it was originally 3.
That's fine.
And you were like, yeah, I'll do.
That's fine.
Then another thing is like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess John will do 5 and I'll react to it. And make
that's fine.
More conversational.
That's great. Exceptional podcasting. There you go. So my first prediction is perhaps unsurprising. I think the Bucks are going to win the championship this year.
Okay. And I'll react with one of my own. I think the Bucks are winning the championship this year.
I like them apples.
There you go.
How do you think this is going to go? Because I think it could go a number of different ways. I think looking at the East right now, I think Miami will be heard from in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
I could see Philadelphia being heard from in some way, shape, or form. Then what? Yeah.
After a trade. Yeah.
And maybe that'll be another prediction. And then obviously Brooklyn. I'll say this. I think the Bucks' toughest test, and maybe this is disrespectful to Phoenix, I feel like the Bucks' toughest test will once again come in the Eastern Conference. Like, yeah. I don't see, all due respect to Golden State, I know you love you some Klay Thompson. You really do love you some. I do
love me some Klay Thompson.
You do love you some Klay Thompson.
I also don't think Klay Thompson's the X factor that it'll matter as much. If he comes back and is Klay Thompson again, then it's different. I need to see it first before I make any of those conclusions. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. But I think he is going to come back. I think he's going to be good. I think the Bucks I think there's some institutional memory there. I like what they've put together. I like their core. Love me some Pat. Let me get sure I get the pronunciation right. Connaughton.
There we go. He's learned, everybody.
I have learned. That was on this podcast, right? Where
I was on the Patreon. Yes.
That was on the Patreon. Okay. Bobby Portis, know your role. I was looking at it. This is funny. I know no Knicks talk on here, but I was looking up Julius Randle's advanced stats earlier today from this year. And there's one, I forget if it's VORP or like win shares per 48 or like box, but one of those, he's like 70 something in whatever the stat is, one spot below Bobby Portis.
Oh, they kept the wrong power forward.
They kept the wrong power forward.
Yeah, they had so many and they kept the wrong one. I remember that
goodness
summer.
Gracious. Yeah, well, road's not taken, right? Get well, Julius.
Max contract, Bobby Portis.
Max contract, Bobby Portis.
Oh man. Wow.
Yeah, so, but I mean, no, I feel, I don't know if my confidence level on this one is like a 10, but it's more than a 5. It's like maybe 6, 7, bordering on 8. I do have a lot of confidence in Milwaukee and Giannis, but in particular.
I think, look, the overarching factor here is I don't see Kyrie playing a home game of that series. I don't think we're not going to turn this into a vaccine conversation. I just don't ever think he's going to get vaccinated. So if the Bucks get home court in that series, which probably won't happen, then you're counting on Kyrie. It actually most makes sense for them to not get home court. Like if they're the 2 or the 3 seed, and then the conference finals, they don't have to face Kyrie for 1, 2, 5, and 7. You know, so that's what I'm factoring into this. That as currently constructed, Brooklyn like can't stop a big man, whether it's Embiid, whether it's Jokic, whether it's like Vucevic. They can't stop a big man. So when they play Giannis, he's going to be able to average 35 and 15 a game. And that is not a recipe for beating the Bucks. And that's why I think come playoff time, the Bucks, I think, will be able to get through the Nets. The Eastern Conference, so is it Philly that you think is the Eastern Conference team that can pose the most fight against them in like a second round matchup or something if Philly can get the 3 seed?
So I don't know that Philly can get the 3 seed, and maybe this is a good lead into our next prediction. So right now, Philly is again at press time. Right now, I can't believe I was rooting for the fucking Nets in that game because if the Nets had won, what?
Yeah, what were you doing?
Well, because if the Nets had won, the Sixers would be, the Knicks would only be a game back of the Sixers.
There's still only two games in the loss column. Plenty of bad teams the Knicks are going to play over the next 11. We can catch up. I like laughing at Brooklyn.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
23-10, Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
So the Sixers right now are 5 back of Brooklyn. They're 4.5 back of Chicago. Like that they could make up that ground if they play well for the rest of the year. I think they do have it in them to play well, especially with Cleveland looking like now with Rubio down, and I think he's a big part of what they did. Like there's some comeback to earth potential there. So like, let's say even Philly gets, like as they're currently constituted, they could get into the top. They could battle Miami for the 4 or 5. Maybe they even get ahead of Chicago. We don't know. Maybe there's some regression in Chicago. So if they're in that top 4, I think that's where they should look to. And then if they trade Ben Simmons for something that helps them this season, does that make them a real threat?
I think this is where if you have a Ben Simmons trade as one of your bold predictions, we should segue into that because then we can add that to the conversation.
I'll be very honest. I struggle with this one because I do not think that there is an obvious trade on the board, but at the same time, as we just were talking about on the town hall a little bit, the notion that Daryl Morey is going to potentially waste a year of Joel Embiid's prime, and he is in his prime right now, and he is doing damage when he wants to, in a year where, like, I don't know, as much as we just wax poetic about Milwaukee, do we really think like the Bucks are some kind of unbeatable juggernaut, or do we think anybody in the West is like some unbeatable juggernaut? Like, no, I don't think so. I think if Joel Embiid has the right lineup around him in the playoffs, like they could absolutely go on a run and win the whole thing, or at least Daryl Morey is correct to think that is a possibility. But then you look around the league. So here are the candidates, and I will pick one of these, but I just want to go through the candidates briefly. Okay. So the candidates for. And again, I'm not saying it's a 1-for-1 trade. I'm just talking about like the candidates for who could potentially end up on the Sixers if a lot of other shit potentially happens. Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
Is a guy.
Is a guy. Yes.
Is a guy. DeJounte Murray is a guy. I don't think San Antonio would be in on Ben Simmons at the cost of DeJounte Murray, but I do want to just throw his name out there. Again, another guy. I don't think this is going to come to fruition, but I'll just throw the name: Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And then I'm going to save my last Western Conference, two last Western Conference guys because I think they're the two most likely. One of the Pacers centers, I guess it would be Sabonis because Miles is a traditional 5. So, but can Sabonis play 4 next to Embiid? I don't think so. Julius Randle, his name has to be mentioned. And then I'm going to skip over another guy. I'll mention Bradley Beal again. Don't think it's likely. And then I'll give you can I say like it's going to be one of these 3 guys?
Okay.
Jaylen Brown, De'Aaron Fox, Damian Lillard.
I also would put it at those 3 guys. Can I eliminate who I don't? So Russ, there's a long-standing beef with Embiid that just in bringing Russ to go play with Embiid would hate that. It wouldn't work. That's not the guy you go get to play. I just don't think Russ and Embiid get
Drummond
along.
is on the team.
That is true, but that was always playful. Like,
was it?
Embiid was always like, I'm better than you. And then Drummond, after a couple of years, like, yeah, you're probably better than me. And then he went to become his backup. Russ, legitimately, they had hands and then had a like stare down at the end of a game. Look, maybe as they get older, beef gets squashed. Russ is in his mid-30s now. So maybe
I don't think it's
situation fit would work. I don't think that's the situation.
I don't think it's a serious. I wanted to throw the name out there because of the contract and because but again, the Lakers don't have enough to incentivize the Sixers.
The division rivals, I don't see Philly making another trade with Boston after the Fultz Tatum thing happened. I get it, different regimes. You got to think about your fan base being like, wow, we're really trading Ben to a division rival again. The last time we did that, Jason Tatum became a Celtic. I don't see that being the place they go to solve their problems. It's why Kyrie has never made sense. We're trying to beat the Nets. Why wouldn't we keep him in Brooklyn where he can never play a home game?
I don't see Kyrie as a possibility.
The other options, the DeJounte Murrays, the
SGA
Foxes, the SGAs, the anybody in Indiana. So I'll ask you, how much does the will Ben Simmons go play there conversation?
I don't think
element of it matter to you.
I think he'll play for any one of 29 other teams.
It's literally just the Sixers he won't play for.
Yeah, I think he's out. I think he wants out.
Okay. If that's the case, then Sacramento, I think, is the lead candidate there.
The article that came out from Woj a month ago, which we've kind of been sleeping on. At least we're not sleeping on Giannis.
Sleeping on Woj, not Giannis anymore. There you go, Yash.
Where he was like, canvassing executives around the league. There would be more support for or more interest in the Portland job if they knew they could trade Dame than if they knew they had to re-sign Dame to another contract.
Mm-hmm.
At press time, the Portland Trailblazers are in 12th place in the Western Conference. They are closer to the Pelicans. Actually, I'm sorry. I'll go one step further. They are as close to the Thunder as they are to the Kings, who are in 11th place and actively make their coach go up there on the podium and find different ways to say, I've never seen anything this bad in my 34 years of coaching an NBA basketball team. That's where the Blazers are right now. They lost again last night and it wasn't close. They've lost 3 in a row. They are, my God. They're a disaster.
They have the fifth fewest wins in the NBA. That is bad.
They're 2-8, and there is no scenario where the Trailblazers rebound to do anything this year. No one wants CJ McCollum. No one gives a shit or is going to give you a serious thing for Yusuf Nurkic and fucking Robert Covington. Like, you're not going anywhere. So if you're Dame, don't. And a new exec comes in and all parties agree, hey, we're let's, and I'm not saying they're the ones to get Ben Simmons, but in some kind of a 3-way configuration where Portland gets young players and or assets, or picks rather. I would say Dame. If we're making bold predictions, my bold prediction is Ben Simmons goes out and Dame Lillard comes in a multi-team trade that involves at least one other team.
I dig it. I think the key words you said is if all parties agree. And look, there's just this weird thing with Dame in Portland. He loves it there. I
think that's bullshit. I think he loves his money.
And I think he'll get paid the same contract he's on, regardless of where he is. He's been a video game cover athlete in Portland this entire time. I'm listening to what he said. If you're saying it's bullshit, fine. I think he would have asked for a trade by now.
I believe Woj is reporting. I believe Woj is reporting that all of that stuff about loving Portland and this and that was all posturing to get himself paid. And I think
the Woj report is the Olshey thing, right?
Yes. Where Olshey was.
That's where I take it with a grain of salt, that it's a guy upset he got fired, throwing the guy that he did everything for under the bus.
I don't know. We'll see. if you're Dame, I think reality has probably set in right now that no one is giving you that contract extension, because I think we're at the point now where you're not, unless ownership forces whatever executive is going to run that team, whether it's the interim guy they have now or whoever they hire next, unless ownership says, I don't give a fuck what you do, but Damian Lillard is never going to wear a uniform other than the Portland Trailblazers uniform. Unless ownership does that, I just don't see why an executive would be like, okay, here's $100 and whatever million to play for us when you're 35 and 30, whatever it is, years old. I just don't see that. That's not no one's going to do that. They're going to want to trade him now when you could get whatever you can get for him now. Like the writing is on the wall.
I added the caveat of if all parties are involved, just to bring up the fact that Dame has consistently refuted. If he is involved, that is the other actual obvious one, that Portland and Philly seem like obvious trade partners, obvious trade assets for Dame. And then, Philly then has Embiid and Dame, and that changes my thoughts on the ceiling of what the Bucks can do this year.
So you like a Sixers core of Dame and Embiid more than the Bucks?
Oh yeah. The Sixers are playing man down, but they were the 1 seed going into the playoffs last year, and then their point guard decided he didn't want to shoot in the fourth quarter. Like that happened still. And the Bucks,
that was the thing that happened.
Like as much as I was impressed by Giannis in the finals, let's not pretend that they weren't 2-2 facing the Hawks. Like,
okay, I'll make it a
there is a world where the Sixers get to the conference finals and then like they have answers for Giannis. They have bodies to throw at him.
Okay, I'll make an addendum. If the Sixers do trade for Dame, I would pick them to win the championship.
I would too. I think the more obvious bold pick, which is weird because of the two dominant teams this year being in the West, I think both of us think the Eastern Conference is going to have the NBA champion this year.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think it's if Philly gets Dame, if Kyrie gets vaccinated, if the Bucks get there again, I think one of those three teams will win the title this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Perfect segue to my next bold prediction. My third bold prediction. I don't know if I'm ready to put this out into the open. It's bold, right? It's just bold predictions. That's all it is.
I wonder if it's one of the ones I had ready to drop before if I was going to make a top three. So go ahead. I'm ready to hear it.
I think you're going to hear Donovan Mitchell trade buzz before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year? Oh, before the end of the calendar year. I agree.
Before the end of the calendar year.
I agree. Yes.
The Jazz right now they've surpassed the Warriors. They have the best net rating in basketball. They are only 2 back in the loss column behind both Golden State and Phoenix. They're just 2 games back, full stop. They profile as a team that should march to the 1 seed yet again, because they were the 1 seed last year.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you tune into their games, and I know you occasionally do tune into their games because you watch League Pass like I do,
mm-hmm.
you will hear their announcers complain about how like the Jazz are like letting another team back in their game because they're just going on autopilot. And like you could look at that in one of 2 ways. You could look at it as like, all right, well, this is a team that knows they're better than everybody, and it's just like, kind of we get to the postseason, which okay, fine. Or you could look at it as like, there are signs of concern here that there has been years worth of evidence for. And you know me, when I listen to my NBA podcasts, my get ready, get your drink, my low post and my Hoop Collective, and like it, you constantly hear little drops of tidbits of morsels of like, keeping an eye on Utah. And then we got the Ainge hiring just now or a week or 2 ago, whatever it was. Like, I think they're going to lose in the playoffs again. And I think when they lose in the playoffs again, and at that point, by the way, Donovan Mitchell he has 4 years left on his contract, but really 3 years because the final year is a player option. So 2022, 2023 will be when he could start laying the foundation for like, okay, guys, let's see what you got.
So the Jazz remind me a lot of the Blake, DeAndre, Chris Paul, Redick Clippers, where I think they know their ceiling. and they're like a really good regular season team that like they know, like in their heart of hearts, they know they're not that guy, right? They know that they're not a team that's ever going to seriously compete for a title. They're not a team that's ever going to seriously compete for a conference. They might make a conference final one year. Maybe the better.
I think they can make a conference final this year.
But really, you think they can get past Phoenix or Golden State?
Well, no. If they don't, they may not have to. If they're the number 1 seed and they're playing the fucking Grizzlies or the, like, I don't know if I have a prediction specifically about him. Well, maybe I will. Yeah, maybe I'll make that another prediction. I have a few in my head. I just don't know which ones I want to use as my 5. Yeah, they could lose in the second round, but like I think they could also make it to a conference finals.
Okay, I look at that. They'd have to get the 1 seed in order to do that. I think they'll end up being the 2 or the 3, and being like a game or 2 behind those 2, one of the 2 juggernauts. And as a result, I think I would take one of them 2 over Utah, which then lends to the trend that this is not a team to take seriously come playoff time, Yeah. Which then adds to Mitchell's then frustration of like, am I just going to live in Utah and never make a conference final the majority of my career?
I think it's like he's one of the very few. I think he actually might be the only non-Knick I have on notifications for Twitter.
Mm-hmm. No LeBron?
No. I thought you were being serious or something.
No. Of course not.
Half of his tweets, at least, actually probably more than half of his tweets, are about the Mets because his dad, I believe, still works for the organization.
Works for the Mets, yeah.
And then you'll get the occasional tweet in which he is quote tweeting something about somebody who did some stupid fucking racist thing in Utah, where he plays and works and lives, and has just, by all accounts, some of the most abhorrent human beings. And you could say the same thing about every NBA city. There are abhorrent people all over the United States of America and the globe.
Talking on a day that a quarter of a fan base was happy that a player on their team got COVID.
Yeah,
so yes,
exactly.
That is a thing.
It's a thing. So again, not that I should put that past any fan base, but like, it's really out there and out in the open in Utah in a way that I think probably bothers Donovan Mitchell. So yeah.
Now we're in agreement about the fit not being great. I mean, that exists around the league a little bit though. Like Jaylen Brown in Boston is another example. Literally any player that is any black player that plays in Indiana has always found that an issue.
That's true.
Reggie Miller notwithstanding. There's these pockets that's going to matter a little bit. As far as a basketball standpoint is concerned, I wonder also if the East Coast has always been on Donovan Mitchell's mind, and we'll see what happens with the Knicks the rest of the year. But if they can get to a 7 or a 6 seed, and then this offseason, he's officially fed up. Although you said 2022-23 is more the year. So maybe we're having this conversation a year early.
I think we're going to hear the rumors in the year ahead. And I'm not even sure he's the only young player that we're going to hear stuff about. I think SGA's name will be out there in the year ahead. We already talked about De'Aaron Fox. It would not shock me if Trae Young's, and not because the Atlanta Hawks would want to trade him, but it wouldn't shock me if Trae Young, if we got some murmurings from his camp in the year ahead. Like all of these young players, like everything seems to be wonderful in Phoenix right now. But at some point, I do wonder, is Booker going to, because he has only 2 years left on his contract after this year.
I think there's a conversation more for a year from now when we're doing the in for 2023 bold predictions, Yeah,
no, I understand that. But, because you got the server of it all and like DeAndre Ayton and Chris Paul is not going to play like this forever. Well, all that stuff. Okay. Should we move on to the next bold prediction?
Number 4. Go right ahead.
This is number 4. So I have a couple others, but
there's a whopper that I'm wondering if you're willing to drop on people or if you're even thinking about it. I'll save it for last if you don't say it.
Give me the team you're thinking of.
Team that plays in the West Coast.
Oh, something about the Lakers?
Yeah. It would be a bold prediction to say it.
What, like they don't make the playoffs or something?
That they trade LeBron James.
That's not going to happen.
There's 0% chance they trade LeBron.
I think there's 0% chance.
There's no way that they're so screwed up financially in the salary cap that there's no way that LeBron's like, listen, it might actually be the best thing for us if I'm not playing the remainder of my prime as a 38-year-old or a 37-year-old that's averaging 38, 8 and 8. And we're not winning games. We're having to struggle against games in Houston and then not winning games in Memphis. That maybe like we've gone all in. We won our championship. The pandemic hit and it ruined. Like he's a calculated guy. I can't see why that's not in play. That he'll look elsewhere and try to work out a trade.
I think there are only two other teams that LeBron James would ever play for: the Knicks and whichever team drafts his son. And we're 3 years away from that. I don't follow that closely enough. So we're not near the second thing, and the Knicks are not in a position to make that kind of trade right now.
I also don't think he'd ever play like Leon. Okay, you're making the Leon connection there, right?
I just think like LeBron's clearly a narrative guy. Yeah. And I think there's only 4 or 5 organizations in the league that he ever really would envision himself like putting on the uniform. And I think the Knicks are one of them. I think, it's obviously been reported that there was real interest in 2010. There were just reasons why he went in a different direction.
You're thinking correctly. And like, well, where would they trade him to? I'm saying if it came out at any point in 2022 that LeBron James has not requested a trade, but would be open to a trade.
I don't think we're going
to go a different direction.
I don't think
it wouldn't shock me.
It would shock me completely. It would completely shock me. So I'll go a different direction here. I want to pick a team that is going to come out of nowhere and do some damage in the playoffs that no one's going to think about. Picking before the playoffs, perhaps. I have gotten burned by this team several times in the last few years. Well, actually, maybe not, because there's a lot of people who were like, you need to start doing a daily Mavs tracker when they were 8-14 last year about their pick. And I'm like, guys, don't fall for it. This team's going to be fucking fine. And sure enough, from that point forward, they were one of the 10 best, or actually like 7 or 8 best teams in basketball if you go by net rating. But I'll do it again. And maybe this is my reverse jinx attempt subconsciously. I think the Mavs are going to put it together. I think Luke is going to put it together. And I think the Mavs are going to do some serious fucking damage in the playoffs. And I think they will win at least one playoff series. And it would not shock me if they won more than one playoff series and potentially even, I'm not going to sit here and be like the Mavs are going to win the West. I can't do that. But we were just talking a minute ago about like Utah not getting out of the second round. Like right now, the Mavs are 5 games back of the Grizzlies, and the Mavs have played like absolute dog shit this year. The Mavs have played about as bad as you can imagine. For them to get to the 5 seed, they're a game and a half back of the 5 seed. The Nuggets are in the 5, tied with the Clippers. And then you got the Lakers, Mavs, and Wolves, all 11 games back of first. And then after that, you got the Spurs who are 14 and 19 at the moment.
Your Spurs.
My San Antonio
Spurs. Yes.
Do I think the Wolves are going to make a leap? No. Do I think the Lakers are going to figure their shit out? No, I don't. The Clippers have lost Paul George. The Nuggets can't seem to get their shit together. They're a maddeningly inconsistent team, despite Nikola Jokic's greatness. And then could Memphis hold on to the 4 seed? Oh, yeah, sure. Who am I picking between the Mavs and the Grizzlies in the first round of the playoffs? I'll give you one guess. And then, if it's Dallas, Utah in the second round, I know who I'm picking there. And it ain't Utah.
So I will bring up what was said to me when, with my second pick in the wins draft at the beginning of the year, I took Dallas Mavericks. And my counterpoint to the Mavericks will do damage in the playoffs prediction is 2 words, and it's Jason Kidd. So is Jason Kidd detrimental enough that he will neuter
Luka Doncic, because like if you're paying attention, Luka Doncic had a bad year. Yes. Luka Doncic came to camp. I don't know what report you want to believe. 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds overweight, whatever it is.
Out of shape being the bigger issue. Like, it's not even like if you put on some muscle, like there was ways to come in overweight, but it'd be like, oh, this is now how I'm going to play. He's out of shape. Like the cardio is the bigger issue for me.
Yeah. And he's like not getting back on defense and, all kinds of shit. I'm looking up his stats right now. So bear with me because
he's averaging. I
don't care what he's averaging in terms of like points, rebounds, and assists. I could give a shit less about that.
Okay.
He's 51.1 effective field goal percentage. By comparison's sake, last year he was 55. He's shooting 32.6% from deep, which is about his career number. Last year he was at 35%. From his overall field goal percentage, his 2-point field goal percentage, 52.6% last year, 56.7 the year before that, 57.4. He is not getting to the line at all. He is averaging 5.5 free throw attempts a game. 2 seasons ago, that was 9.2, shooting under 70% from the line. Like, he has not been good. I think he's going to turn it around. I think he's going to be like, oh, well, you people, like, I'm not an all-star starter, or like, I'm not going to win him. I'm not going to make all NBA. Fuck all of you. I'm the best player in the sport today. And he's just going to go on a rampage. Now, that's my prediction.
For those of us out there that do care about the counting stats, still averaging 25, 8, and 8. To John's point, though, it's not an efficient 25, 8, and 8, or 25.6, 8, and then 8.5 assists. I'm not going to doubt Luka here. I do think the minor edges that show up in the playoffs that make a difference is coaching. And then like your 6th and 7th and 8th man. And like that would be a team I would see Utah getting past in the second round is Dallas.
It's interesting though, this whole crazy kid thing of like, I'm going to empower the rest of the roster. Like, I'm not saying it's worked. I'm not sure. Maybe it hasn't not worked. I like, what? That wasn't English.
I'm not sure it's worked, but I'm sure it hasn't not worked.
I'm not sure it hasn't not worked. Like Porzingis seems, although it was funny after the Kings hit the dagger on them last night to win at the buzzer, Porzingis had like a smug smirk on his face, which was like just an interesting reaction. Like you could see him, like he was literally, they took him off the court because you have to hide, you have to take him off the court for defense purposes now. But like,
geez,
he was right behind Metu when he hit the 3, and he just had like it was probably more like of course that went in because what else could go wrong this season type of look, which I don't know what that says about his level of engagement. But like,
by the way, Kristaps Porzingis 27.8 3-point percentage for the season.
I know it's not good.
Yeah.
It's all gone horribly. And yet they still have a positive point differential somehow, and like, I don't know, they've injuries, COVID. Reggie Bullock's been one of the worst players in the NBA.
Although ironically, Bullock's been a bad signing, but Frank has almost made up for the productivity, which is hilarious to every single Knicks fan.
It's hilarious on a lot of levels.
Yes.
They have a trade in them. I think
that's the argument. Then they have a trade in them.
I think they have a trade in them. They have movable salaries. I don't think it's a Porzingis trade, although I wouldn't rule it out. Somebody will talk themselves into KP if they want to move him. But I've been wrong about them so many times, and I'll probably be wrong about them again. But if there's a team, like I wanted to make a bold prediction about a team that I thought was going to not come out of nowhere, but like be a team that like, it's a bold prediction to predict they're going to do stuff in the playoffs. And that is the team that I'm predicting.
Then my candidate for that would be, it's not even bold to say like, okay, Denver, I think could make the conference finals again.
No, that's the other team. That's the other team.
Okay.
And I think Murray has to come back, right?
Yeah. I think you would
like if Murray comes back, you're right. Like how bold is it?
Right. That's the part is like, okay, they got their second best player back. I predict if they get their second best, it's the Warriors thing. I predict if their second player comes back and looks like a Hall of Famer, then they'll win the title. You know,
I see more next year as Denver's year. But you know, we'll see. So the last one I want to predict either, and I have some candidates for both. And again, I'm working through the process here. I want to predict either a team that's going to jump up out of nowhere and be a team to be reckoned with at the start. Like, so when we're doing this pod next year, the team that we're talking about after 35 games, or a player that jumps up and is like, oh, this is the next superstar.
Okay.
And I'll start with the second conversation because I think it's the more difficult one, because looking around the league right now, other than like the two obvious names, I think, which are Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham, I don't see a young player who I'm like, there will be a massive leap from how we look at this player today versus how we look at this player a year from now. Do you see another player besides the two rookies who I just named?
So it'd have to be someone from the last two drafts that takes a leap. Is what you're saying, right?
mean,
or three drafts if you want to. I was that far.
But like, what if is there a world where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander establishes himself as a no doubt about it top 10 NBA player in the next calendar year?
Not on that team. I think that team is going to hold him back from any level that he could get to, which is I think that's why they gave him the extension, but it's also why I feel bad for him taking the extension. Because you're not going to turn down that money, but you're also going to be stuck being in the bottom four of the lottery every year.
Yes, I completely agree. I don't see it for that reason too. You know, I think about a guy like I look at situations, right? So like we just talked about Sacramento before. If Sacramento trades De'Aaron Fox, does Davion Mitchell like step into that role?
Oh, Halliburton was going to be the guy. I said
that's another guy who's an interesting name to put into this conversation. They have two candidates, which is interesting. You know, I don't know. I don't feel strongly enough about any of these names to be like, that's the guy I'm planting my flag on. As the guy who's going to make a leap from here on in. I think if I had to plant a flag,
like the Cavs a 1 seed contender for next year.
That's the
led
thing.
by Evan Mobley.
Is there a possibility we're sitting here a year from now and the Cavs are the best team in the East, or neck and neck for the best team in the East, where Evan Mobley is like in the MVP conversation?
Well, after they've traded Garland, Sexton, and all their picks for LeBron James, then yeah, the Cavs, I'm coming home again, you know?
I'm coming home again. No, that would be like I don't even know.
This would be his third stint in Cleveland, so it could be coming home again.
No, but but here's the other thing is like why I think that they, I think, you know what? Fuck it. I think let's go with this one. I'm gonna hedge, and it's gonna be a little bit of an Evan Mobley prediction and a little bit of a Cavs prediction. And I think the reason why is because they have a trade in them. They have a very easy trade in them, and I don't know what the trade is, but they have Kevin Love's salary. They have now Ricky Rubio's expiring contract, which again, becomes complicated because obviously he's not playing again this year. And they have Isaac Okoro, who I think right now, Isaac Okoro has the value that Knicks fans would like RJ Barrett to have. I'm just going to put it out there.
Savage.
Am I wrong?
No, it's real. It's savage. Yeah.
Like that is a young, big, athletic wing who shows signs of being able to do real stuff. And I don't know what he is, but I could see some team looking at him and being like, what is that guy going to be in 3 years? So just for where we're at right now, he's played 24 games this year. He started 20. He still can't shoot it. Only taking 3 threes a game. He's still last season 29%. This season a hair under 30%. So it's not like he's made a jump there. Better overall, shooting better from 2-point range, a little bit more efficient. Counting stats are like not going to blow you away. 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists.
You really have to watch the Cavs to see when Okoro goes off, because when he goes off, it's a lot like what we saw from Garland or Reddish 2 years ago, where it's like, oh, there are moments here where this looks like a guy that can be the best player on the floor at times. So that's where Okoro shows flashes like that. I think there is some like early 2000s Timberwolves in this Cavs team, which goes back to the Mobley comps of Garnett that have been flying around out there. And it's where, look, this is bold, right? If you wanted to say that there's also a this decade's Bucks run in the Cavs, where a small market team built around one guy. Mobley's not the dominant force Giannis is, but defensively, might be able to become that.
Hold on with that.
Offensively.
No, I'm saying hold on.
Okay, you're thinking. Okay.
Dude, this guy, man, as a rookie, a young rookie, he's not, and I don't think he's an old, I'll look up his age right now. But he's already doing some stuff with the ball that like, yeah. And defensively, he's 20 years old. So he's not the youngest of rookies. He's also not an old rookie or anything, but I don't know. Saying it, then maybe that is the bold take that we wrap up on, is that Evan Mobley could be on a Giannis trajectory and do for Cleveland what Giannis has done for Milwaukee, and kind of redirect the course of the league, where it's like you got to go to a big city and build a super team, or you can build your own thing in a small market and still be successful because you drafted correctly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think he has a chance to be one of the best draft picks of the last several years. Right up there with Luka, right up there with Trae Young. Who am I missing?
Ja.
Who?
Ja Morant.
Oh, Ja Morant's pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right. Went head to head with LeBron last night.
Yes. Yeah. No, he's. We didn't make any bold predictions about Ja Morant,
because I think it's not bold to say Ja Morant's really good. At this point, he's established himself. We're a month removed from having is Ja Morant a second team All NBA player. You can't see it, guys, but I'm going to expose it because YouTube will expose it for those watching. John, is a cat in there? You just had like a sneeze off that you.
No, I don't. All of a sudden, I started sneezing. I don't know.
Okay. Do you have any allergies?
I'm allergic to bee stings.
Oh no! Wow.
Yeah,
that's.
I'm supposed to carry an EpiPen around with me at all times. I don't do it. I should.
That's terrifying. Then.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I watched because for the Matrix pod, I've been going through the Wachowskis, and I hate bees so much. I had an experience when I was a kid where we had a shed in our backyard that was never used, but it was like old and raggedy. And I climbed on top of the roof of that shed once, and my knee crushed a hive. And my first experience with bees was all of them being upset that I crushed their hive. And since then, I'm out on bees. Every time the Knicks beat the Hornets, it's a double win for me because they also beat the Hornets.
That's hysterical. You just said that out loud.
Yeah, I'm glad you found that funny. I did not find
the Hornets funny. Part of it is very funny.
Oh, the Hornets funny. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. I think that's I don't know how we got on. Because me sneezing.
Allergies. Yeah, that's all. We're toward the end of the pod, so I agree. My bold prediction is that LeBron James will play on a different team in 2022. I think he's established he can be like, I don't know what the trade is. It just would not shock me if he's looking around and it's like, damn, he's left teams in his dust before. Look at the Cavaliers, look at the Heat, where he's like, you have to move heaven and earth to make me happy while I'm there. I'll be the same guy for 4 years there. This is year 4 of the Lakers. I would like to see him actually. Go ahead.
Where's he going?
That's the issue, is the where. I don't know yet. We'll see teams suddenly have cap space or become potential trade partners.
Suns going to do DeAndre Jordan, my God. DeAndre Ayton sign and trade, and Lakers are going to go right. Lakers are going to go Twin Towers, and LeBron's going to go play with his buddy Chris Paul and for Robert Sarver of all people.
Only if the Lakers throw in Carmelo Anthony. So three quarters of the banana boat. Dwayne Wade will sell his stock in the Jazz and then come out of retirement. Yeah. And then the banana boat finally gets to play together.
I don't see. I'm literally looking at the standings right now. I don't see that. I said it. And I'm not trying. I didn't say that because it's a Knicks podcast. I believe the only other team he would ever play for, again, aside from whoever drafts his son. I don't even know if his son's definitely going to draft it, but
you wouldn't play for Philly?
I don't believe he would.
Okay, but he played for Dolan, but he wouldn't play in Philly.
I don't think he gives a fuck about Dolan. If he played for what's the owner's name?
Oh, Dan Gilbert. Yeah, but there was baggage there. That was Cleveland. He did Cleveland wrong. He had to go, quote unquote, right that wrong.
I don't think he cares. I think he cares about narratives. That's all he cares about is narratives. He's a millennial. Of course, that's all he cares about.
You say that like, you're technically not a millennial. Are you a millennial or are you Gen X?
I'm a year old. He just turned 37, right? He turns 37 today as we're recording this.
Yes. Happy birthday, LeBron James.
Happy birthday, LeBron. Fuck you. I'm only a year. I'm only a year older than him.
So I just realized why you're so dismissive of this take, because you don't care. You don't care where LeBron plays.
No, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Should I?
Think he's won his last? No, I think if LeBron James becomes available and he's still averaging 27, 7 and 7 in year 19.
No, the guy's been great. I put him on last week. I did the pod with Chris. I put him on my second team All-NBA.
Yeah. I think that would add a wrinkle to this offseason where it's like, oh, there's no big free agents available. If all of a sudden adding to the potential superstars that could get moved after the Lakers miss the play-in or lose as like a 9 seed, that we look at the Lakers and it's like, well, what's the obvious move? And LeBron's like, well, what if you tore it down a little bit and I'll go play for a different team?
I just don't see where LeBron is going to look and be like, that situation gives me a definitively better chance to win a championship than playing with Anthony Davis. I think LeBron would essentially have to be out on Anthony Davis because this isn't LeBron leaving whatever. I forget how old Dwayne Wade was at the time when he left Miami to go play with, Wade was kind of at the end of he was at the end of his prime. His prime was over.
Yeah.
Bosch's prime was pretty much nearing its end. Anthony Davis is I don't know how old he is. He's 20 years old. Something like that.
So the argument then is Philly, I actually think now that I'm starting to work on the take even more, maybe Philly is like a sneaky destination for LeBron.
So Simmons for LeBron, is that what you're calling right now?
Yeah, Simmons wanted to go play in LA. Rich Paul would absolutely set that up.
I don't even know.
I broke John's brain. The look of why are we having this conversation? It's 11 o'clock on the December 30th. Andrew, what are you saying to me?
Putting aside the notion of Ben Simmons and Russell Westbrook on the same team,
yes,
which is just
make it work. We'll make it work.
Fizz, let's fire Vogel and give Fizz that assignment. Here you go, buddy.
Yeah. What's funny
you want another chance?
I'm happy. Listen, it's a bold prediction just to be like LeBron's going to re-enter the trade machine. I'm trying to think, what's the transfer portal? That's what college calls it. It's just like a bold thing that LeBron, his body language being the biggest case, is just not happy in LA. And the way he usually gets his way when he doesn't like his situation is he leaves. And I wonder if this is the situation, if this is how he gets out of the situation, is all of a sudden LeBron James is available. I don't actually think they're going to trade LeBron James either. I think he signed that extension knowing he's going to be playing next to Anthony Davis for a while. He just now has a Russell Westbrook thing that he did not realize, like the rest of us, how like the rest of us did, would be so detrimental to that team.
I'll say this. I don't think the Lakers. We get in the pod with just some Lakers talk. I don't think because I mean, say what you want about I don't know anything in the NBA this season. The biggest story of the NBA in this season is the Lakers. Is there even a close second?
As far as disappointments, no.
No, I think just yes, Cleveland, wonderful what they're doing.
Just like the Warriors being back. Yeah, like there are other stories, but the Lakers, everything that's happened to them this year, you picked them first in the wins pool. We all thought like they're not going to win a title, but they're going to be a 1 seed.
They are 2 games under 500. We have played 35 fucking games, or excuse me, 36 games. They have played 36 games. They are 2 games under 500. They have a negative 2.1 scoring margin. They have a worse net rating on the year than the fucking Knicks.
Yeah.
Who suck.
And it's like not a close net rating than the Knicks. They're negative 2.1. The Knicks are negative 0.7. Yeah. I think the Knicks have had problems this year. They don't have LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook. And look, I mean, they're that far in that rating.
Whenever Zach Lowe talks about the Lakers, do you still have anything left in your cup?
Nah, I'm out. Shout out to the town hall. I'm all the way out of stuff, but I'll.
You should have refilled. He mentions the, I forget what the net rating is, but with like those 3 on the court and like no center, it's still, it's like, I don't know what it's positive 3 point something, 4 point. It's like, it's not terrible. It's not bad. Mm-hmm. It's good. It's good. But like, I don't know. They don't have any more rabbits left to pull out of their hat. I think was it the Windhorse pod? They were talking about Taylor Horton Tucker. What I forget. I get my ESPN pods confused.
Yeah.
And they were talking about like, well, it was whoever Marks was on with. I think it was Windy. The notion of like, would you trade Taylor Horton Tucker? And I think it's like a 2028 first or 2027 first or something like that. I'm like, what value does Taylor Horton Tucker have right now?
That you ask the Lakers, and he's got a higher value than most assets. He's up there with Ben Simmons for potential playmakers.
That's who they were talking about. Jeremy Grant. Like, could the Lakers get is Jeremy Grant going to make a difference?
Mm.
Like, it's like they're old, and none of these guys that they have are going to make a material difference. Like, I don't know. Could you imagine if there were LeBron to the Knicks rumors of the summer?
Oh dear God, I'm not ready. Dan, now you broke my brain because I don't even know what the trade would be.
It would be LeBron's last attempt. It would be LeBron's one last attempt to make a super team in which the Knicks would be the host of said super team.
Man, if William Wesley pulls that off, we get like 3 years to do content for the LeBron James and the New York Knicks. I don't even know. I don't even know what I'd do. That's an appropriate way to end this late night.
It's
Patreon
not
episode on New Year's Eve.
Do you think that's insane?
If I'm opening Pandora's box into LeBron can be traded, then no, I don't think it's that insane. You're right. That is one of the options. The Knicks they have all the assets to go get a big star. A big star whose agent now runs the team.
No, here's why it's insane. Well, no, it's not. Here's why it's insane. It's so that free agency isn't a thing this summer because there's no free agents, and and 2, nobody has any money. So anything you'd be doing would be via trade. So like they have enough stuff to trade for 2 guys. Like they have enough stuff to trade like to LA, and they have enough stuff to trade to get who the fuck would the second star be? That's so you're saying they'd have
to get LeBron and Melo back in the deal. So they have 2 stars and
you are relentless.
Yeah.
You are relentless with the utter nonsense.
Yes, I know. I try.
Wait, Ben Simmons is represented by Rich Paul, right?
By Rich Paul. Yeah. That's the other part, is that maybe Rich Paul does his buddy that like pulls the strings and works a deal out for Ben Simmons. Gets to go to LA. LeBron gets to go play with Embiid. Maybe there's another team that gets involved.
Oh no, I'm saying Ben Simmons and LeBron both in New York.
Oh, so okay. That goes back to my division thing. Like, why would Daryl Morey allow for that to happen unless he's tearing some stuff down?
Because Rich Paul said it has to happen.
Yeah, but Rich Paul said trade Ben Simmons for the entire month of September. It didn't happen. And he didn't trade Ben Simmons.
And he would trade him if anybody had a thing to trade for him. Listen, Daryl just wants his guy to play alongside Embiid. If he could get his guy in some kind of a 3-team trade, he doesn't give a fuck where. I don't think he cares where Ben Simmons goes.
That's what it has to be. It's a 3-team deal with you'd like.
Obviously,
the Knicks give somebody deal. Assets. Yeah. The Knicks give somebody else assets. Somebody else gives
Julius goes back to LA. Gets to play alongside Anthony Davis.
See, this is where, as we wrap up 2021, this is where getting to do podcasts with you a little more intimately, John, and seeing the evolution of John Macri over the years into a legitimate broadcaster
is
really cool. Just say thank you.
Thank you.
Is the cool part in that I started this pod with the mission of just bullshitting you with LeBron to the lake. LeBron could be traded. That's a bold take. And you've now elevated the take to LeBron to the Knicks. That's a bold take, isn't it? Can you imagine when that happens and your slam cover behind you then has LeBron and Ben Simmons in Knicks uniforms on it?
That would be quite.
I
don't forget about Obi Toppin.
That's the one they get to save. That's the one they get. That's the deal breaker.
Deal breaker is the deal breaker.
Sorry, Rich Paul. Sorry, Daryl Morey.
Sorry.
We'll include everybody but Obi Toppin.
No, Obi. Obi's the key to making it all work.
Yeah, that starting 5 of LeBron, Ben Simmons, Jericho Sims, Rokas, and me. Yeah. No, they'd actually, real talk in this weird ass world we've created.
Yes. You started this shit.
I know, but you telling me Carmelo wouldn't come play a year in New York as a 6th man?
I didn't need to tell you. You just said it.
Yeah. Okay. That if that's the way I can get one more Melo season that matters, I'll take it. Just have to do the impossible. Go get LeBron and Ben Simmons to come play for the Knicks.
But I mean, look, this is ridiculous.
The end of the bold pod where we've created a situation that is plausible.
You said it before. If the Lakers are an 8 seed or a 7 seed and lose in the fucking play-in or make the playoffs and get spanked in the first round, and okay, great. So now you're waiting for Russell Westbrook to expire in a year, and then wait, you don't open up any cap space because of the way your salary structure. It's I agree. If he looks around and he's I can't win here, does the fact that he gets to be in LA and have that situation, is that enough for him? Does he want to finish his career if he is convinced that he will not finish his career in the finals conversation, does he make one last pivot? And does he have enough confidence in wherever he would be making that pivot to make the pivot? Because I am serious about that's why I said what I said before. The Lakers have no more moves.
Yeah.
They're in terms of what will materially alter their championship equity.
And to your point, it's not just that the Lakers have no more moves. But as a result, LeBron has no more moves. So the only move is not Lakers related, which is why, listen, side talk, get it ready. The reaction when LeBron is suddenly a New York Knick next season. Good Lord,
man. Only thing I know about the NBA.
Where's Jeremy? Cabernet Cap, the LeBron James play.
Hold on. No, this is how we're going to end this part. I'm literally going to look up LeBron James's salary right now. LeBron James birthday, LeBron James age, LeBron James stats, LeBron James salary. Here we go. 40. Is this right?
Yeah. He's like a super max. It's like a mega max at this point too. or King Max. I don't know what they call him past a certain point. Yeah. Oh no, wait, supersize Max. That's right.
Wait, hold on. Did he sign it? When did he sign an extension?
He signed a second extension right after Anthony Davis did. That's why this take falls apart, is that he's under contract for like all these years, which is why the Lakers probably are like, we'll just figure it out in 2 years if this Russell Westbrook thing doesn't work out.
Yeah, I guess.
But also, the Lakers have no more moves. And therefore, LeBron, his next move could be...
Listen, if he wants to get traded, he's going to get traded. There's no such thing as LeBron James going to your team and being like, I'm going to leave now, and you saying no.
How about no? Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not going to do that.
So when his extension kicks in 2023?
Hold on, I'm like looking.
It's a 2-year extension. That's right. So
in December of 2020, he signed a 2-year extension.
That's what it is. He signed the extension because it was the same time AD signed a 5-year extension. So
yeah, so he's only under contract, until
for 2 more years.
So next season he is expiring in 2023. He's only under contract for 1 more season.
Expiring contract. LeBron James will be a free agent. Okay, I dig it.
So maybe we're a year early.
So next year when we're doing it,
that's
the take. We found it. Remember how a year before KD's free agency, it was like, well, maybe KD just has to, the way he solidifies his legacy is he goes to the Knicks. And then we had a whole year of KD to the Knicks rumors.
Hold on.
LeBron James to the Knicks rumors will start at some point in 2022.
It's starting right now. It's starting
right here. That's right. It started in 2021 and I want the credit for it. Just like I want the Dame Lillard credit. Damn it. Okay. You heard it here first. I'm ready to go if you're ready.
What a ridiculous end to this ridiculous fucking conversation in this ridiculous year.
Yeah, ridiculous is a very apt word to describe this year.
Oh my God.
I had fun though.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big year for us.
Yeah.
Professionally.
You could say that again. Yeah. I literally living my dream job, John. You have a lot to do with that too.
You and me, likewise, you and me both. And of course, you know who else had a lot to do with it? All of you guys out there, guys and gals out there. Thank you. We always end the episodes with a thank you, but this is not only a thank you for right now. This is a thank you for just being with us when we launched this Patreon. I don't know, roughly a half a year ago. We had no idea how it was going to go, and you have made it such that we're. I mean, thank you. It's been amazing. And it's been a huge part of why 2021, despite everything happening around us, has been a really great year for us, that we at least have one thing that we can smile about is what we've built here at Knicks Film School. And every one of you listening is a massive, massive part of that. So thank you. And I hope everybody has a great New Year's Eve. And I hope 2022 is a better year for all of us, right?
Yeah, a better year for the planet. I don't even know what to say anymore. I was on a pod today with a fellow Blue Wire podcaster, Dan Favale, and we were talking about the current state of the pandemic. He asked about like my situation, and I was just like, look, I think we're all somewhat out of answers or calls to action. It really is just like a thoughts and prayers. Like if you are sick, if your family is dealing with something, I hope you survive it. But we all kind of seem like we're on our own from like an oversight perspective. And as a result, we're just kind of all dealing with it at the same time. But the upswing that I'll leave on is to echo what John said. Like I went into 2021 with a little more certainty than I did 2020. Like 2020 was actually a really big year for me personally. And then 2021, I probably had the biggest steps taken forward in my personal life and my professional life. And it's what's led me to here. And a lot of it has to do with the love and devotion and support that we get here at Knicks Film School. So thank you for that. On behalf of Final Review, thank you for that. If you've embraced that show as well.
If you haven't, embrace it now.
Thank you. Yes, on behalf of John and myself.
I have, I think, 2 minutes to go in the Don't Look Up pod.
Man, you're not giving me enough credit for being shocked that that's Cate Blanchett. I know her name is in big bold letters. I rewatched it the other night with Rosina. I'd still just it was out of sight, out of mind who's in the movie because there's so many movie stars. And then looking up the cast list to do the review with Oz, I was like, it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence. That was Cate Blanchett. Yeah.
Listen to the pod. It's easily a top 5 moment of final review for me. Last thing, well, we're on the topic of Don't Look Up. It's funny. I have to finish the newsletter for tomorrow. Not that it's going to be a long one. By the way, do you know? So the end of the year newsletter, as I said earlier this week, I'm doing 2 abbreviated newsletters because I just want to spend a little bit more time with the family. So tomorrow's is going to be the next person up on the top 75 list. And do you know who it is?
What number are you up to?
Hold on. I'll look it up right now.
Is it like an old friend that we?
It's a current
Nick.
Friend / foe. You couldn't write this.
Current friend / foe.
I'm up to number 42.
Is it KP?
No, I had him at 50.
Oh, you did have him already.
1 or 52. Something like that.
So it's higher than that. You already said Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
Randall's Randall's got to be higher than that. Or is Julius?
It's Randall.
Julius Randle is the 40. Oh, wow. And I'm curious to the rest of the list. Wow. Perfect timing. Julius Randle on the first day.
Well, and
first day that he doesn't get to play.
But here's the thing. As I'm going to write in the newsletter, I think I had him in the low 20s at some point. And then I think as the season got underway, I moved him down to the 30s. And now it's like, I can't go any longer. I just got to get this out of the way because it's bad. And, but I don't know how we got.
Just talking about.
Oh, that's right. So I was talking about a background viewing for when I finish this newsletter, and I find myself wanting to put on Don't Look Up, even though I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy the movie, but like my viewing of the movie, and it was just why it was such an illuminating conversation listening to you guys talk about it because you hit on a lot of the things, but like Bernard found it hysterical because of. Like if you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie and it's a satire of the way things are in the world today. But like to me, every time like one of those comedic beats would land, instead of like laughing, I'd be like, okay, that's the way the world is.
Yeah.
It's not funny to me. It's just the way things are. And I didn't find humor in it as much as I think some people did.
The common critique, which is why the thing has been divisive amongst the critic world and like the film world, and it just all is fully divisive on Anna McKay across the board. But
and by the way, the Big Short is one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years.
I think easily. of the 3, The Big Short's my favorite. But there's a moment where Don't Look Up becomes like an SNL digital short. But like a feature length one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Meryl Streep and Jennifer Lawrence and all these movie stars.
Yep.
So like you're in on the joke. The joke is obvious. And as all those notes hit, like I'm laughing and I'm admiring some of the performances, but I'm also the choir that is being preached to,
And that's the thing is it's like, I don't know. This is probably going to come off wrong. I don't need to be preached to. Like I know who I am, and I know my thoughts and positions on all this shit. So like, that doesn't add to my enjoyment of it.
It's why the movie. I don't want to say it doesn't work. I think for what I think it's a venting session for a lot of these people that made the movie. They're not trying to teach anybody anything. They're just trying to be like.
I know.
Look how much we've disregarded the smarter people than us because the people in charge have completely disregarded the more people than us. And then how we deal with that is we focus on the most immaterial things because we're trying to be happy and trying to stay light and positive.
Yeah. And again, I was watching the story unfold and I'm like, well, yeah, of course that's, like I didn't view it as a satire. I view it like, okay, that's the way the world
It's very literal. It's a satire, but it's like literal satire.
So it's like I'm watching. It's like, okay, I'm watching this, and it's I don't know. I was probably as close to getting depressed as I was and yet I brought it up because I'm sitting here to myself thinking like, you know what? I kind of want to put on that movie again.
It's a decent background movie. I'd put on Tick, Tick, Boom, which is now, it's become my background movie is Tick, Tick, Boom. You know,
I had a little bit of background Tick, Tick, Boom, I think a week or two ago because Dolores hadn't finished watching it. I still need to finish watching Power of the Dog. I still need to finish watching, which I got through 28 minutes of and I fell asleep during those 20 minutes. And then Matrix, which I also fell asleep during, but I made it through 45 minutes of that.
Bravo. You made it
it's so sad.
I'm watching it. I'm watching Resurrections this Saturday. I did the trilogy and then I had some other Wachowski stuff to watch.
Oh, okay. So you haven't even seen it yet.
Yeah. Now the plan, which COVID had other plans this week, was that we would do our pod earlier in the week. I would do the trilogy in prep for it. And then for our bonus review over the weekend, I would watch the final one in a theater this weekend, which is not happening anymore. No. And then we will bonus review it for Monday morning. But you know, I don't know. This is a long outro, but I think it's a roundabout way that all of this gets to be for an audience that has bought into our show. And I'm really glad with what I'm building over there, but I'm even happier for what I'm helping to build here at Knicks Film School. Mr.
Yeah, and if you have stuck around for this entire 20-minute outro, God bless you. Really, seriously, we thank you, and everybody, Happy New Year, and God bless.